Welcome to the Your Data Driven podcast. If you like the show, please visit the website yourdatadriven.com, where you can find motorsports resources to help you set up your race car, master data analysis, become a better racing driver. Welcome to episode 2. My name's Samir Abid. Today I'm talking again to Andrew Cohen-Wray, but this time we're not talking about mental performance, we're talking about money. Andrew is about to start his racing career, yet he has managed to raise a significant amount of sponsorship money. How's he done that? And what can you learn? Try and raise some money for yourself. Let's find out what Andrew has to say. Welcome back, Andrew.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Wherever you are in the world. So, following on from that super insightful first episode that we did together when you were talking about the day job, the mental health, the positivity around bringing a mental attitude towards your racing, and actually your own experiences firsthand, or the beginning of your own experiences firsthand, stepping into the world of racing. Absolutely fascinating, and if any listeners haven't heard that episode, I'd recommend popping back and giving it a listen. Today's conversation is slightly different. Whilst we addressed one elephant in the room last time with regards to, I would say, a pretty old-fashioned attitude towards mental health in terms of motor racing, the other elephant in the room, or an elephant in the room in motor racing, the other big one is money. So how do people fund their racing? And I have been absolutely impressed and staggered by your story, Andrew. And I'd just like to sort of share today some thoughts around how you've gone about doing what you've done, which you can explain in a minute. But also if there's some takeaways for people, because I would say in general, 90% of people who race, certainly as a hobby, don't think about raising external money, or they wouldn't know where to start with raising money to help them race. So can you explain what you've done, given the fact that your situation with racing and everything is quite new as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess on one hand, I'm quite fortunate in that because I work with a lot of businesses doing sort of mental performance within businesses and teams and things like that. We have a lot of access to companies, to businesses. And what I've done is put together a very simple kind of partnership opportunity PDF, a document, outlining the key things have been my own personal journey, what I plan to do, and the value I can hopefully bring to the businesses by them getting involved. Now, there's a lot of, I guess, like we say, elephants in the room, misconceptions on the right way, the wrong way, and the best way. The biggest thing I found to making this happen has been, and through the conversations I've had with the people who are now partnering with me, is that the feedback has been they're more committed to the journey as opposed to putting a sticker on a car. And that's been so, when you see on social media all these drivers saying, if you give me this, we can put this sticker, this logo, la, 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 la. That's lovely. But really what I'm finding businesses are more interested in is your personal journey, your personal story of what you've been through, what you're going through, and where you're planning to go, if that makes sense. So kind of the start, the middle, and the finish.
Can I just a flag for the purposes of the audience? You recently got your race license. You have never entered a race other than some go-karting. You don't yet have a racing car unless it's been delivered in the last couple of days. And yet you have actually successfully raised a significant amount of sponsorship money for your racing, towards your racing. Now, you're obviously giving a lot of value for that, but I just think it's staggering, because perhaps the perception in the paddock would be that, well, only the people at the front who have the most exposure are going to be of any interest to a sponsor. And actually, maybe our series is that sort of small that, you know, and it hasn't got massive coverage. Who's going to want to see our stickers on our car? You know, how's a sponsor going to get a return from investing any money in their racing? So they probably don't even look. So it's obviously a lot of self-funded stuff. Yet you have gone, actually, no, there's an opportunity here to help other businesses and to help yourself in terms of funding your racing. And you not only thought about it like you and I having a chat in the pub, you've actually gone out and you've actually raised a significant amount of money towards it. I mean, this is...
Yeah, definitely. I think my racing, you know, the season this year is going to cost around £40,000. And I would say a good 95% as that is already in the bank and paid for as such. And I completely get what you're saying around, you know, I'm racing in a novice series.
Wow.
It's a bit crazy, isn't it? They're kind of, it's like they're...
Well, you don't know any different. You possibly don't know any different. But like everyone now listening is going, he's done what? Because like I would say, you know, it depends on what car you have, but you know, a season's racing from a lot of people is actually a lot less than that amount of money. And obviously that's another thing about communicating that with everyone in your family and your wives and better halves and stuff. But it does cost a lot less than that. But you know, it's still a significant amount. So, and you've raised a huge amount of money.
Definitely, yeah. And and I'm kind of sitting there quite humbled, and you know, I'm very lucky that I'm in a position where I can offer more back than just putting a sticker on the car. And that's kind of how you've got to, I think that's the best advice, is to think around what you can offer businesses. Now, because I'm doing workshops, because I'm doing keynote speeches, because I'm doing executive coaching sessions, all of these services that I would normally charge for, there's ways of kind of tweaking your proposal or your partnership opportunity proposal document, whatever you want to call it, and say, you know, how about if I offer you, you know, what I've done is I've put together three tiers of levels of sponsorship. So like you could call it a gold, silver, bronze, or a first, second, third, or whatever you want to call it. And then what I've done is made sure that obviously there's more value per tier. So the first one would be something like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head what it is, but I would say I would offer your business a keynote speech, say. Now, ordinarily, I would charge, you know, upwards of £2,000-3,000 plus for that speech, to talk about my journey, my mental health journey, and the work I do and the people I work with. So right there, I've got a winner, because somebody's going to get an hour or an hour and a half's keynote speech and time with me for putting a sticker on a car. In effect, it's like a trade-off, isn't it? And there's things, you know, because my race car is road legal, I can take my car to the event. So people are going to see their logo on the car at their head office, at their office, at their factory, at their conference, or whatever it is. And then you can invite the press along. You can invite the local press. You could, if you've got a press or PR guy or company, you can get them to, really push that for you. So you'll get all the local press people there. You could do a Facebook Live. You could do a social media live type event.
I mean,
make a real big deal of it.
I would say for 90% of people listening, this is alien stuff you're talking about. This is just what?
Okay, yeah.
but it's great, because it's like, oh, just get a PR company. People are like, what? Unless they work in PR, that.
Yeah.
This is kind of new, and you make it sound very simple.
I think it is simple. It is simple. Brilliant. I think it is. I think we just
haven't thought of it.
Well, we probably just think it's not for us, but we are our own PR company as such. Everything we do, we've got to be I've got to be really careful as a human being what I put on social media. If I put something on my personal, social media channel, I've got to think that potentially those people reading it are going to be potential clients in some way, shape, or form later on. So, if you promote yourself well, people buy into that and people like that. And I think we are our own PR company. Even sat here now, I've got a branded T-shirt on, I've got a branded cap on the desk, I've got my branded notebook and everything else. So everywhere I go, I'm PRing myself, I'm promoting myself, and you've just got to put that into a racing world. I'm sure if somebody, those of you in business or whatever, will have your elevator pitch down to a T. If you're a salesperson and you're selling ice to the Eskimos, you've got your patter down to a T. You've just got to transfer that patter, that elevator speech, into a racing world and get people to buy into you. Because, there's nobody sat in an office right now going, do you know what I want to do? I want to give £10,000 to some chap who's had a mental health problem, lost his brother to suicide, had a stroke, and, I want to put my logo on his race car. There's nobody thinking that right here, right now, anywhere in the world. But what I've got to do is go and get that message out there and go, this is my mental health journey. This is what I've been through. I want to go racing. I want to, I've got a 5-year plan of going from noddy novice to hopefully an LMP3 driver at a Le Mans series or actually, Le Mans race or something like that. So I put this plan together. I've got this journey of how I can go from nothing, zero to hero. Do you want to come on board with that? How cool is that going to be? And along the way, I'm partnering. The other key thing I've done, which is good if you guys and girls listening can do that, is if you've got a personal story, it's kind of tapping into a charity that works in that world. So as I said, I lost my brother to suicide in 2012. So I've partnered with a national charity called SOBS, which is Survivors of Bereavement Through Suicide. And so partnering with them, what I'm going to do is raise awareness and talk about, the mental health elephant in the room in the motor racing world. So, it gives me another platform, if that makes sense, to share my journey on. And it's a win-win because a charity is going to benefit from my social media presence and all the PR stuff that's going to come with it. And it also gives me a platform to talk about suicide and losing my brother. So it's a win-win all round. And that partnership hasn't cost me anything. All it's going to cost me is putting a sticker on the car, which isn't that expensive. So it's a win-win. You get the backing and support of a charity, and you're promoting your journey as well. If that makes sense.
It just makes total sense. So I'm just enjoying listening to your words really about it.
But I think the difficult thing is that we all don't have an extreme journey that I've been on as such. But we've all got a story.
I was going to come to, does it have to be? Yeah, so you kind of pitching the journey, which we talked about a little bit before, which you're probably part for today on this podcast. But it's a fascinating story, and I totally get why. I get you, and I get why people would love that. But in terms of the audience who don't necessarily, like you say, have that same story as well, they do have something of value to offer.
Of course, yeah.
So into that. So say I race with, I don't know, accountants and farmers and people who have no sort of interest in cars necessarily other than their racing. So how could my accountant friend, for example, what ideas would you give to him based on your experience of what worked in approaching companies?
Yeah, so I would, the way I would kind of sell it to my accountant would be the opportunity to, obviously get involved in my racing and my journey, but also the networking element.
If the accountant was the driver, so imagine flipping it, so like from your experience of like what's kind of worked and what hasn't worked when you've talked to people in terms of trying to encourage them
Right,
and get
yeah,
them
sorry, yeah,
excited?
I'm getting the wrong end of that one. Yeah, so
That's
it
cool.
would be, I would look at the kind of the networking opportunities that are available to those businesses. So
Okay.
if you could invite prospective companies, or, as an accountant, if you can invite some of your customers along to a race weekend experience. How cool is that? It's depending on the kind of the racing you're doing. The racing I'm doing is going to support the British GT package, so it's not the top tier of racing in the UK, but it's there. It's good standard. So you're going to have all the nice Lamborghinis, the Aston Martins, the McLarens racing round, the Bentleys, and stuff like that. So it's kind of giving them an opportunity to get in the paddock with you and network and talk to other like-minded people that have got an interest in you, if that makes sense, because you never know what business is going to come from it, if that for them, so potentially they might, you might invite your farmer along who meets, an accountant, or meets a sign writer, or meets a printer or something like that. And then that farmer might think, oh, actually, I'm due a new uniform now. Who can I use? Oh, I met this guy that was at the racing who knows Andy. I'll use his services because, and then it barrel rolls from them. So, somebody's got some work out of something, and it's a really nice, friendly way to do some good networking with like-minded people and kind of do business with them, which is great value add. I believe, and that's the kind of stuff that and what the other thing I'm putting together is kind of little mini newsletters, little mini e-booklets, if that makes sense. If I'm inviting 10 different businesses along, what I'm doing is giving them sort of a quarter of a page each around who they are, what their business is. So that kind of takes away that awkward, oh, I don't know what you do, because you're all, how do you know an accountant is an accountant until you ask him? Apart from they normally wear grey and they look a bit dull. But, I'm sure there are some exciting accountants out there.
All the accountants have just turned off.
That's it, yeah. It's always good to offend somebody during the day. An accountants, it's your turn. So, yeah, it's good to, but how do you know what that person does until you go and ask them? And you're not necessarily going to go and ask them. So if you know who's in the paddock with you and who's supporting this car and driver, again, you've got an instant networking. You can put their social media stuff on there, their websites and stuff like that. And then away you go. You've instantly created a nice little family support group around you.
What about, I just want to jump in a bit on that, because you've chosen a series that does have, it's not it does have that kind of environment. Other race environments are quite a step down from that, so they don't mainly the people there are competitors, or friends and family of competitors. So that experience, so if they invite, a load of corporate sponsors along, they might be anxious about that in terms of, whether or not they would really get the value. Is there something you talked about to me about seeing something outside of the race weekend as well?
Yeah. So, the other things you can do is offer, do some track days, do some hot laps with your clients, get them along. One of the companies that's sponsoring me is going to use sort of myself and the cars for their client days. So we're going to do some stuff at Brands Hatch. So we'll hire a room, we'll have our own garage. I've got a simulator guy coming along.
Right.
We're going to hire a couple of cars.
Yeah.
And we're going to hire a couple of cars that they can drive. So we're putting on a full-on track day. So basically this company will invite 20 of their clients along, or prospective clients along. We'll start off by doing a simulator session around Brands Hatch in my car, so they can get a feel for the course, a feel for the circuit. Then they'll jump in with some instructors, and they'll do. I think they're going to do some laps in a Lotus Elise and a Caterham 7. So they'll have a tin top and an open top experience. So they'll do their own driving, and then they'll jump in a car with me and. We'll show them what we can do, and it's kind of a three a 3-part day. That gives them a little bit of, virtual reality stuff on the simulators. They can jump in a car and drive, and then they can go fast in a race car. But there's also, there's a meeting room, so they can do their smoozing and their deals or their meetings or whatever they need to do. So it's a great value add, and it's very different to what normal businesses are doing, because you've got a great opportunity.
You're going to have some costs off the back of that, but I guess as long as the margin is in there, the contribution goes towards
you charge it back to your client, don't you? So you say, this is the level of sponsorship I need from you, and then so that's the thing you've got to do, is not get tied down to, I offer 3 tiers of sponsorship, so say 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 pounds. But what my client has come back to me and said, he says, I like that, but actually what I want is this. Can you price it up for that? So what I've gone away is and then gone, okay, well, if you come on board at this level, I can put on these track days at a cost of, and it's, all it's going to, I think those days they're around 7,000-8,000 pounds for the day, I think, all told, with food, everything laid on.
Oh, so it's
the whole package.
High level, yeah.
Yeah, so these are big, big, well, it's not big corporates, but they're big corporate companies who want to invest, so 8,000 pounds for an away day as such isn't that bad in the grand scheme of things. One of the guys I was working with was charged, they went to the rugby at Twickenham, and I think for hospitality, they were charged about £500 a head, give or take.
Wow.
But this day has come in at around 330 a head, and they get a whole day as opposed to a 90-minute game of rugby. I think it was a 3-hour experience. So it's actually a lot cheaper than what some companies are paying. And they get a proper thrill, a proper hair-raising experience, especially when they jump in with me.
I smiled when everyone smiled when you said that bit. I mean, like we're just going with you, man. We support you all the way. You'll look after them, and you want to get everything back in one piece, like you said before. So
I've got to drive the car home.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fascinating. So I imagine people listening now would go, well, actually, I could probably do that. Maybe not at that scale, but I could certainly do something along those lines. And even if they're raising like less money than you have, it would still be a contribution to
a massive. Yeah, and what a great day it would be, So what's it cost to jump? Definitely, yeah. And why are you not doing it? Is probably my question. Why are you not? So you get a track day. It'll cost you, I don't know, 200 quid to do a track day. Bit of fuel, tires, or whatever else you're going to, put your costs in there. Then you could offer your time for free as such. Because if you think about it, you're getting a day in the car, so you're getting a day's testing and stuff like that out of it. So it's a win-win-win, really. And then it's just, cover some food. It doesn't have to be high-end hospitality, even if you just buy everybody lunch while you're there.
I think what you've done there is quite good, because partly, you go to the track and you want to, possibly want to have a driving experience. Getting people to drive your race car is
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think most people would say that. And some people listening might only have one seat in their race car, anyways.
There is that as well. Yeah.
So, but the way in which you folded in, right? Well, we'll hire some cars and we'll do the simulator.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's speaking to the racetrack. So I've just spoke to the people at Brands Hatch and said, look, I've got 20. Yeah, I've just spoke to 20. I said to Brands Hatch, I've got 20 clients coming along. I want to run my race car, but I want a driving experience for them. What can you do? And they've come back and said, right, we can get you 2 cars. We can have, you could have 5 cars. You can have 1 car, whatever you want. How much is that going to cost me? And then they kind of put the package together for you and say, right, we can give you 2 cars. Hospitality, a room.
Absolutely brilliant.
They do. So I've treated it as if I was hiring a corporate event as such. If it was my business's corporate event, and I just said I want to put my car on as well. They're like, yeah, that's no problems at all. And then they just charge you the track fee. You'll get a garage. You can put your simulators in there. It's just tapping into. It's just, I don't know. It's just thinking about it slightly differently. And okay, if your car doesn't have, if you've only got one seat in your car, well, still take your car along and let them see it, the logos and stuff like that, get some photos with it, and do it that way. Give them an experience, if that makes sense. But it would be tricky if you're in a single-seater, then, you're in your Formula Ford. It's going to be quite tricky to get somebody in. But, you can have the car out on track, or you can just have it in the garage, have it there, so people can sit in it, because, there's nothing more enthusing and inspiring than sitting in a race car. I think about my 5-year-old, he sits in a touring car at weekends when I'm working, and he's loved it. He's got the bug. And if you can get somebody in business into your car so they can see what it's like, what you go through, the smell, the feel, put the helmet on, put the gloves on, that's really exciting stuff to some people. We take it for granted. We do it every weekend. But to these people, it's a different environment to work and competing. So just having it there so they can see it, touch it, feel it, stuff like that it's worth a lot more than you think.
So how do you pitch that? Because someone might go, I'm not really interested in cars.
It's
Is it about the cars, or is it about the equivalent of jumping, doing the bungee jump?
I think it's people buy into you. That's the key to this. People buy into your journey. I've got an architect company coming on board. They're not petrol heads, but they want to support me to do what I want to do. And that's been through things of, I've done a keynote speech for them in the past. I've done a talk at their annual conference, and they really get what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve with the message of going racing. So it's almost like it's not actually about the racing. It's about the journey of how I can talk about how I've had some, mental health problems, suicide in the family, things like that, and how I've gone on to do some racing. But it's a bit like Muhammad Ali's quote around Lance Armstrong's book around it's about the bike. If any of you know that story where Lance Armstrong said it's not about the bike, but for Muhammad Ali, it was all about the bike because his bike got stolen and that's how he took up boxing. So it's it's not actually about the racing. It's around the journey to do the racing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about the human being they're buying into. That's the key to it. And that message that you'll deliver and promote.
In terms of outcomes from the other end, what do you think those people are going to take away?
Hopefully they're going to have, hopefully those that come and watch the racing, they're going to see the highs and lows of it, that whole emotional experience that goes with it, the winning, the losing, the being around loud, noisy cars and things like that. The opportunity to network with other businesses, the opportunity to kind of show me off to their clients, maybe to kind of promote what they're doing within the paddock. You just never know who you're going to meet in a race paddock. You never know. And then also the other social media stuff. So I'm going to do a lot of video blogs, a lot of blogs and social media content for them about the journey and the racing.
And if people wanted to see that, who are listening, how do they find you online?
Yeah, again, so if you're not following me from the first podcast, why not? Especially the accountants among you that have swithed off and are now slating me online.
My fragile follower base have all unsubscribed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, apologies around that. But yeah, come and find me at 1404 Performance. So that's at 1404 Performance. And all the racing and stuff is going to be through that channel there. So come along and enjoy the journey. And you'll also be able to see how I've got to where I am now, if that makes sense as well. So because you're kind of catching it just as I'm starting racing. So that's all good.
This is fantastic. I just think it's just lovely to hear such a refreshing approach to this. In my experience, money is not talked about, and if it's almost that attitude. If you need to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it. But everyone, I think, inside is thinking, "Ouch!" This is a pricey sport, and if you can get someone else to pay for it for you, then surely that's going to be better.
Of course, yeah. And I wouldn't go,
But they wouldn't
even
know
if
where to start. So you've given people, I think, some brilliant pointers.
But just don't get bogged down on the logo on the car, on the sticker of the car. If your car's doing 130 miles an hour, nobody's going to see your logo. So don't worry about it. It's more about the journey, and the person that's driving that car is important. And the stuff you can offer off track.
This is it. It's the stuff you can offer off track. And, even if it costs you something, you can still do it at a margin. You've got this unique opportunity to provide racing, a window into the world of racing that people will be very interested in.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And no matter at what level, it's almost like sponsoring me to do like the dad's race at school, isn't it? It's very, very low level compared to Formula One racing or racing in an Olympic stadium, but it's kind of getting people on board at the beginning of your journey. And if people buy into you, you've got to start at the beginning, which is a dad's race, and then hopefully in 4 years' time, you'll be in an Olympic stadium.
One last thought. Who do you think people are? So say people are listening, and you're sort of self-employed, but people might have a job. So what would you suggest in terms of who they would approach in that? So would you suggest they go to their own company, or do you think reaching out to other businesses of some scale in the local area, or something?
Of course. Yeah, why not? Yeah. So you probably want to speak to marketing, advertising, PR within your company if it's big enough. They would be a good place to start.
But there's almost like a professional development bit around this, isn't there? There's different budgets that businesses have, away day budgets, so you've got the promotional side, but you've also got the internal corporate entertainment. Not corporate entertainment, staff, what they call them, team bonding days or whatever.
Yeah, team building days, away days.
There are different pots within businesses, aren't there, that people are using. So you've got the marketing budget, and they're going to say, well, where's the return on investment? How many eyeballs are we going to get? And then you've got that's the one thing which people may maybe put off by. But then the other one is like, well, yeah, we've got a team of 10 or 15. We're looking for an experience, and what can you provide? It's a slightly different proposition.
Yeah, it is that. It is that. You're not twisting it. You're just tweaking it, aren't you, to see your audience? So it's kind of, if you can think, I'm thinking about one of the other packages I'm offering. So I'm doing this client day for them, where they can smooth their clients and get them along and show them what they're doing. We're also doing a kind of an internal team away day. So again, a very similar thing, hiring a car, just one car this time, because there's only about 10 of them, I think, 10 or 12. So we'll hire in a car, we'll have my car, we'll also have a simulator there so they can have a go. But then in the afternoon, we're going to run a sort of a high performance workshop for them, where we'll go. So that's the other beauty of what I do, is I can offer that special kind of that workshop or session as well.
But I imagine I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Like, so say you work in IT, and a lot of people I race with work in IT, and they'll be listening to this thinking, well, it's all great to me, but I don't talk, whatever. But I wonder whether if you work in IT, you could do something along those lines and sort of say, right, okay, well, we'll get you guys along, and then in the afternoon we'll do some kind of coding workshop or something like that, or something to do that is really relevant to whoever it is going to be there, so that they're adding it's a motorsports theme, but then they're adding some educational piece to it.
Definitely. It's that. Again, you could put on any kind of workshop for whatever your business is involved with. And I'm not technical enough to understand the IT industry, so I just put one foot in front of the other for a living. So, that whole technology stuff, there must be...
I'm envious about that.
No, absolutely, yeah. I don't get your world, which is why you help me. It's a win-win. But it's, what about if you've got if you want to launch a product or something like that, you've got an app that's launching, or you've got a new system launching in your IT world. Why don't you combine it as a launch day, as a promotional day, and if you can tweak that kind of launch into a motorsport world that involves your car, you're onto a winner. And it's looking at things very, very differently. And it's just not asking for £1,000 to put a sticker on the car. It's around what can you add value to your own internal business, but also think about who your clients are, and who your colleagues are and what would float their boat and what would get them to buy into this journey and this crazy idea you want to spend X amount of thousands going racing a car. And that's the key to it, I think, is that doing something different and looking at it differently, and then go to your bosses and going, we've got this launch coming up. How about we tie it in with, a track day or something, and I can take my car along and we can do this, and, or you can just have your team meeting or your team conference at the racetrack, as opposed to hiring a hotel and, because it's a change of environment, isn't it? And that's going to get people excited. If you're going to a conference in a hotel, it's just, I've just got to get through the 4 hours they're talking at me, then I can hit the free bar and it's all good. But if you've got it in a different environment, you're going to be, people are going to be a lot more creative. They're going to be a lot more relaxed, and they're going to be thinking differently and feeling differently and things. And it just creates a much more positive world. And, if you're in a business, think about who your clients are, what other companies feed into your business. Is there something you could do as as whatever IT.com is, and whoever feeds into them as a way of entertaining and promoting what you do and selling your wares to them in a different world, without just getting them in a room with four walls and trying to sell them an IT product. So just thinking very differently and thinking outside the cockpit is how we're going to phrase that one, rather than outside the box.
Yeah. So summing up, I think there's several amazing messages really coming through this conversation. Number one, what have we all been doing? Not you, but all of us who've been racing for a long time. Why haven't we done this? Number two, this isn't just crazy ideas. You have real money. Real money has changed hands. Your first season is basically paid for, which is a lot of money, right? We've talked about the ideas of why people might want to do that, and like you made the point, it's not about putting stick on a car. It's not necessarily about pitching something to the sales team or the marketing team of a business. It's possibly more about the journey and that internal benefit that the business would have in terms of coming on board with you, almost like staff motivational thing, as well as the opportunity to potentially do some networking at a race. But they're not there for that. They're not there as a networking event per se. They're not thinking, they're not judging it on that basis alone. They're saying, well, we're here anyway because of all this other value that you're offering. Yeah. And yes, and the icing on the cake would be, we can land a $300,000 deal with someone we didn't know, we weren't likely to meet, and that's obviously more than paid for, the whole thing, and everyone's a winner.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And it's that, it's like the season I'm in this year is on the GT package, and when I progress into next year's season, the season after, I'm then on the back of the touring car package, which is all televised and, on ITV4, and then you've got a much bigger offering and opportunity to the clients as well. So kind of getting them on board when you're sowing the seed, and then, once you flower in a couple of years' time and you're on the big stage, then... Well,
ironically, I think the message, the core message won't change though. So you're not selling the sticker, are you? You're still selling the journey.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you're in a more, hopefully in a more higher profile series in the future with the telly. That's all icing on the cake for them, because they're still getting all these other first-hand experiences. They're still getting immediate value at an internal individual level, not just in terms of prospective sales.
And that's the value add, isn't it? That's the winner. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you get on the program and it's on telly, bonus.
Absolutely fascinating, Andrew. And I think just tell us one more time where we can get you online. I just want to wish you all the best. And this is, we're going to follow your story. It'll be lovely to have you back on the podcast and to give us an update and keep us let us know how you get on, really.
That's right, yeah, and I'll come back to apologise to all the accountants among you. Give us a follow at 1404 Performance, 1404 Performance. Come and say hello. I'll follow you back.
Wonderful.
I'm not that rude.
Yeah. Okay. Well, make sure if you haven't listened to the first episode, please do so and listen to. It's equally fascinating in terms of Andrew's day job. But on this one on sponsorship, and I think we're all motivated now to go out and, well, what can we do to raise a little bit of money to contribute towards our racing? I think we should be going away and immediately trying to do that. So thank you for the inspiration.
No, it's a pleasure. And I think just one last thing: don't worry if somebody says no. Don't get too. I've had a lot of no's for a few yeses. So try and understand why they're saying no, and then if you can tweak your proposal to meet some of their, maybe it's actually £1,000 is too much. Well, how about 500? I could offer you this. So if you get a no, try and get the feedback why. If you don't get a job, what's the feedback of why I didn't get the job? Exactly the same mentality and mindset. And then no is no. That's fine. Don't. Doesn't mean you shouldn't keep going and keep ploughing, because you'll get a yes eventually. I can assure you of that.
Well, I think that's a great final point, because
more no's than yeses.
Yeah, because if you don't run your own business, or you're not exposed in that way, if you're not putting yourself out there all the time, getting those knockbacks can be very difficult. And like you say, don't take it personally. I think that's the message, right. And just plough on it. But make sure you take the feedback on board. Like, don't be,
definitely,
if they're saying you're being unreasonable, then that's a different feedback to, that's not really for us, because we're not into motorsports or whatever.
No, that's right. So yeah, we lose more races than we win. So we'll get more no's than yeses. So keep working at it.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you.
Genius.
Thank you
Pleasure.
very much, mate. And,
speak to you soon.
Yeah, bye for now.
It's been emotional.
That's always. No, just motivated. We've just got to go out and find some money now. I've got really no excuse.
Do it.
Yeah, I've got to. Cool.
I want to hear all the success stories.
All right, buddy. You okay?
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow. So we really have no excuse. How someone who has no racing experience can raise that much money? Hopefully there's some great takeaways for you there, and if you're anything like me, I'm off to try and work out how and where I can raise even a few pennies towards this season. Best of luck, and let me know how you get on. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and visit us at yourdatadriven.com.